announced new rates for the first pricing window in April. Petrol is now selling at a minimum of 13 cedis 30 pesos per litre, while diesel is pegged at 17 cedis 10 pesos, both significantly higher than prices recorded in the previous window. The latest adjustments have been attributed to rising global crude oil prices as well as pressure on the local currency. Transport operators say the development is further increasing their cost of operations, which are already under strain due to rising prices of spare parts, insurance premiums, and vehicle licensing charges. Let's go on the phone now and talk to Deputy Public Relations Officer of GPRTU, Mr. Samuel Agyemang. Mr. Agyemang, thank you for your time this afternoon. How soon should commuters expect a decision on a possible fare adjustment?
Okay, so thank you very much for having me. Let me say good afternoon to you and your listeners. Please let me quickly do this correction. The name is Hammoah.
Agyemang, right?
Yes, it is Hammoah. Yes, Hammoah. Yeah, that's fine. We give the government 2 days of from that after 3 days. That we are.
Mr. Agyemang, please start again. I couldn't hear the beginning.
You are not hearing me.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I think the network. Okay, so let me reposition myself and see.
Right.
To be clear, can you hear me now?
I think it's better.
It's better now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was saying is that we give the government 2 days, to make sure that the fuel prices will not go up. It's based on the agreement we had with the government when the second price window opened. We were, pressed by our drivers that we should increase transport fares, but we explained to them that those fuel prices that have gone up is because of this war with Iran, America, and Israel. That is why the fuel prices are going up. And there is the possibility that it's 2 things. Either it may cool down when the war ends, or it may also go up again. So we spoke with the government, the transport ministry. They gave us an assurance that we should just maintain the prices that we are taking for now. And going forward, maybe they will try as hard as they can so that the final, price window, the fuel price will not go up. So when we heard that information that it's going to go up again, that is when we came up that no. If the government don't do anything to, stabilize the petroleum product, then they will also, have no option than to increase our transport fares. So I'm speaking to you, yes, the fuel prices have come up now. Diesel is being sold for about 17 cedis plus. Petrol is also being sold by about 15 cedis plus. So the leadership is going to have a meeting. We were supposed to meet today, but unfortunately something, came up and we couldn't meet. By tomorrow, the leadership will put things together. Then we'll report to the transport ministry the proposed percentage that we want to give to our drivers. Then we'll go for a final, decision. We'll go and settle with the transport ministry. Then we'll all take a decision before we come out. So definitely, for where the fuel price is now, there is a possibility that the transport fares may go up. Although we heard that the president is trying to, do some things by scrubbing some of the taxes on the petroleum products so that the price will come down. But what we see the pump, when we find out that, it's reduced at the pump, that is where we also maintain our prices. But if you don't reduce, then it means that there's going to be an increment of transport.
So this ultimatum you've given to government, has it expired or it is today and tomorrow?
No. The ultimatum we gave the government expired today because the price window opens today and it was reflected at the pump. I stated earlier that we were supposed to meet today, but we couldn't meet. So by tomorrow, if something changed, then maybe we may not come up with an increment. That is when we see, like what the president is saying, that they will try and scrap some of the taxes. If it happens like that, then maybe we'll hold on. If not, then it means that the increment will come on.
Right. And what specific interventions would you want government to implement immediately to avoid a fare hike?
Yes, what we want the government to do is to just sacrifice some of the taxes. The petroleum product that we are buying, the government has about 13 on the petrol. So that is what we are saying, that if the government can sacrifice taxes, even quite recently, this one Ghana cedi levy was introduced, and there are other taxes like price stabilization and recovery levy, the energy debt levy, energy debt recovery levy. Those taxes, I think that the government can sacrifice some of them so that when it happens that the fuel prices come down, then maybe they can bring it back or something else. So that is what we want the government to do for us.
All right. Thank you so much for talking to us, Mr. Hammoah. We'll definitely come back to you when you're able to meet and then also communicate with us the meeting or the outcome of that meeting. Thank you for your time.
All right. You're welcome.
Samuel Hammoah is Deputy Public Relations Officer of the GPRTU. Meanwhile, utility consumers across Ghana will begin paying less for electricity and water from today following a tariff reduction by the PURC. Tariffs have been reduced by 4.81%, while water charges have been cut by 3.6% for the second quarter of the year. The Commission says the adjustment is part of its routine quarterly review, reflecting key economic factors such as exchange rate movement, inflation, fuel cost, and the electricity generation mix. The regulator maintains that the changes are intended to keep utility pricing aligned with prevailing economic conditions. The adjustment comes barely a month after widespread consumer complaints over fast depleting prepaid electricity credit. Meanwhile, a new tariff structure has been introduced for commercial electric vehicle charging as part of efforts to support government transition to cleaner energy. Let's go on the phone and talk to Benjamin Nsia. He is Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, SEMSI, for some analysis. Mr. Nsia, thank you for your time this afternoon. Do you believe this tariff reduction is justified based on current economic indicators?
Not entirely. I think that tariffs should have decreased more than what has been announced by the PURC. I think that the end user should have gotten 11% decrease in tariff compared to the 4.8 that PURC announced.
So we should have enjoyed more than what PURC is giving us.
Yes, based on the established methodology and also based on the established indicators in setting the tariff, which are mostly market-driven indicators and macroeconomic indicators. I think as well as the windfalls or the gains in historic quarters, the end user should have benefited more than what has been announced by the PURC. I think at least should have been around 11% and not 4.8%.
But in real terms, will consumers really feel this reduction, or is it too marginal to make a difference?
Oh, it is not insignificant. I think it depends on how consumers optimize this new tariff in terms of becoming very efficient and very conservative in utilization of electricity. If a consumer decides to be efficient, I think that there will be some form of a reduction in their utility expenditure or the household level utility expenditure, and that is likely going to improve some form of savings. However, if the consumer is not efficient and continues to be inefficient and does not conserve electricity, I think that others may even pay more than what announcement the PURC has made.
And so just talk to us about your assessment of the balance between consumer relief and the financial sustainability of utility providers.
I think when we look at the power sector, mostly the argument being pushed forward by government and utility providers are that we are not paying a realistic tariff, but that argument has been flawed by various reports and various studies or assessments of the sector. If you look at the sector in its entirety, there are about 6 items that are contributing to huge liabilities and posing risks to the sector. One is the contract itself, in terms of how we procured some of these power generation. The PPA contracts themselves cost us a lot of money or liabilities. That the source of natural gas or the gas used in powering or generating power also was a factor in terms of these sector risks and liability. Aside that, government itself not paying its utility bills to utility companies was also a factor. We have macroeconomic challenges, especially the exchange rate also causing debt or liabilities in the sector. So it is true that we may not be charging cost reflective, but that is insignificant if you look at the 6 other items contributing to huge liabilities in the sector. So I always say that the most important thing for us to do is to ensure that these 6 items are identified in the World Bank report of what we call Energy Sector Recovery Program should be critically looked at, addressed to solve the power sector challenges. And the utilities themselves must be very optimal in their operations, very efficient in terms of cutting waste, cutting leakages, and the stoppage of procurement or frivolous procurement that do not yield any outcome or results or output to the benefit or value for the organization. If the utilities themselves are very optimal or very efficient, I think that we may not even need to balloon or bloat the tariff system we have in Ghana, because Ghana is one of the countries that pays higher tariffs in the sub-region, yet there are a lot of liabilities. So there's no balance between tariff and then utility sector improvement. If the utility sector wants to be improved, they have to be very optimal and very efficient.
Recently, some consumers were complaining of fast depleting prepaid meters. There was a meeting that was held to listen to their concerns and all of that. But it's been a while since we heard from the committee or the PRC on what they found and whether they are going to restore back to consumers what they lost. How should consumers take in the delay in communicating findings from that investigation?
Deadlines are essential, but deadlines must also be very realistic. I think that the 7-day ultimatum given to the utilities were not realistic. I think they were rushed by the ministry, and that is why the outcome is yet to be announced to the public. And 2, I think that when deadlines are not realistic, the best thing the ministry should have done also is to communicate to Ghanaians why the report has not been released or is yet to be released, because we are almost in a month and a half since this particular directive was given. But said delays are likely going to create mistrust because consumers may not trust government with respect to some form of this accountability. So I think that government must be very proactive in communicating to us to create trust so that in future, if said directives are given, the consumer knows that outcomes will come and recommendations given. But if government continues to remain silent, then the trust issues continues, where in future any directive given by government, consumers may just see those as political talks. So I'm expecting the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition to bring the results out because 7 days was unrealistic, but I think 1 month should be okay for them to investigate and bring the report, the outcome of the report, as well as recommendations to address the challenges being perceived or being perpetrated by end users in Ghana.
So, before I let you go, maybe you've touched a bit on it, but let's have a little conversation on building transparency and gaining public trust in the billing system. What reforms or measures should be introduced?
I think with that, the PRC has done its best by telling us the methodology and then the indicators in establishing our tariff. Just that sometimes they do pick and choose depending on how they want the tariff should be. So I think the consistency in terms of using the indicators and applying the tariff or developing the tariff for subsequent windows will ensure that there's that transparency and belief in the system. And PRC must be very consistent, especially in the data they use in setting tariffs. 2, PRC must also know that they serve the interests of both utility providers and consumers. So whenever there are windfalls or whenever there are over-recoveries, they must make the consumer benefit from some of these over-recoveries. And that must be done in very transparent manner without being very opaque with how they source their data. And I think also lastly, The general methodology in setting some of these tariffs must be published on the website of PRC so that consumers and CSOs will also follow to understand how these data were picked and sourced and how they were used in calibrating quarterly tariff or multi-year tariff review order. This builds trust, and I think it will help them, the PRC themselves, and also help the utility providers in engaging the trust of the people so that the people follow and believe that these companies are very accountable to them.
Right, Mr. Nsia, thank you so much for your time. We have been speaking with Benjamin Nsia. He is Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy. You're still on 3FM 92.7, and this is the midday news. Let's move away from that, but still stay with issues of tariffs and levies, because government newly introduced airport infrastructure levy for both domestic and international air travel takes off today. The new charges are expected to push up fares across all routes, with domestic passengers paying an additional 100 cedis for flights within Ghana. For regional travel, passengers will pay an extra $35 for one-way ticket and $70 for return trips. Authorities say the measure is aimed at supporting the maintenance and expansion of airport facilities nationwide as Ghana seeks to strengthen its aviation sector and enhance passenger experience. Revenue from the charges are expected to be used to finance key projects, including the construction of a concourse linking Terminal 2 and 3 at the Accra International Airport, the development of a 2,000 capacity car park at Terminal 3, and rehabilitation works at regional airports. Well, to other stories, the Public Accounts Committee is set to summon public officials Bright Odro-Kwarteng and Theophilus Okine, who make claims amounting to 8.2 million Ghana cedis intended for the construction of household toilet facilities in parts of the country under the Toilet for All project executed by the former Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources in 2019. According to the Local Government Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Minister Ahmed Ibrahim, efforts to verify the claims have been hindered after the officials involved indicated that the supporting document had been forwarded to the National Archives. He disclosed that although mobilization funds had been paid, no work was executed, adding that the previous government had initiated steps to abrogate the contract and re-award it for execution. Let's listen to the minister.
Truth of the matter is that this transaction took place at the erstwhile Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, and it was under the leadership of Honorable Cecilia Abnadapa. And I think it was 2019. So even though we are in 2026, it is 10 years, 5 years or 6 years now. So we did our best, but the good news is that the officers who handled this transaction are still at post in other ministries. The director for procurement was one Mr. Theophilus Okine. He is still at the Ministry of Defense. And Mr. Bright Odro-Kwarteng, he is now Director of Finance at the Ministry of Trade and Agribusiness. So they are still alive, they are still in public service, and I don't want to be a victim of what the Bible says, that I was made to answer questions for which I have no idea about. Archives, I don't know, the thing is not up to 10 years, and you are taking them, you say that you've been sent to archives. And, Mr. Chairman, we have the names of the contractors here, and the contracts, and it has to do with the government policy of Toilet for All before 2020. They were giving mobilization, and they didn't go to site. Construction of 300 household toilets in Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, construction of 200 household toilets in Tamale, construction of this and this. The contractors and their names with the amount are here, and we make them available to the committee. You call them, and mandates are ever ready to give whatever information you want us to give to you.
Well, the ranking member on the Public Accounts Committee, Samuel Atamil, subsequently directed that the officials involved be hauled before the committee. Let's also listen to him and how he made that call for them to appear.
Also invite the minister and the current people out there, and wherever the documents are, they will have to come with them. You pay somebody mobilization to go and work. The person doesn't do it, takes the money. Then you come back, you want to abrogate this contract and repackage it and give it to somebody. Now, what I don't understand is the Ministry of Local Government, you were making payments for contracts that you don't have the contracts. You don't have the documents. Anyway, when all of you come, we'll do it live.
Well, let's move on to the next story now. And the contractor working on sections of the Tamale-Aflao Road BHM International Construction is under renewed scrutiny over delays in the commencement and execution of the projects. The Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Gavins-Agbodza, has expressed strong dissatisfaction with the level of commitment shown by the contractor, raising concerns about the pace of work. Let's listen to the Minister.
We've paid your bill. If it's about money, we've paid the bill. So start working. Don't say that in your contract you say you use 1 month to remobilize, but the public can't take this. So I think that you should reconsider saying that you remobilize after Easter, because it is difficult to see anything that you are doing. Absolutely. I can't even see one track with the inscription of BHM on it. So I keep asking myself, what is going on here? I can't see any equipment here that you've been paid for at least a week. Nothing, absolutely nothing going on here. This is unacceptable. This is not what we signed up for. So what is going on?
This is not the first time such concerns have been raised. On March 5, 2025, at the same project sites, the minister publicly criticized the contractors over the slow progress of work. BHM International Construction UK Limited is responsible for the 17-kilometer stretch from the Tama roundabout to the Central University campus at Miocho. The one of $5 million projects funded through a bilateral loan from the UK was suspended in December 2022 following Ghana's debt restructuring program, which included a temporary halt on servicing external. Let's listen to the minister when he raised those concerns last year.
A place like this, which is the TT Junction, it beats my mind whether BHM is incapable of basically fixing this as a temporary measure. I will not lie to you. We just don't like that. You cannot say that a company of your repute couldn't. What kind of procurement process do you need to just get an actual person to just fix this little thing? And then you put crash rock or something in it. And for 3 weeks, nothing is done. How are we supposed to believe that it's because you haven't been paid? Because if we go into your books now, you're still holding part of our money.
The minister there in previous years. Well, work resumed on April 7 after renewed assurances by government officials, including President Mahama and Finance Minister Kasiel Atuforting, aimed at restoring contractor confidence. Despite these assurances and the contractors' return to site, progress remained minimal a year on, with last sections of the road still uncompleted. Let's listen to that.
Money hit our accounts on Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. We paid our subcontractor on Friday. Already they are on site. If you get to Covert E, they are currently working. Me saying come next week, you see us working more effectively. It's not because we are breaking. We are working currently. So yes, we know what the public is going through. We ourselves, some of our staffs also live on this corridor, so we know what is happening. Now that we've been paid, we will deliver as promised.
contractors of BHM there. Let's do some politics before we go. A national chairman of the ruling NDC, Johnson Asiedun Ketia, has charged supporters of the ruling party in the Obuasi East constituency to work hard in order to win the Obuasi East constituency seat. Addressing party faithful on Tuesday, Asiedun Ketia revealed they needed to discontinue contesting the results at the courts because the principal complainant had died. William Evans Inkum has been following the thank you tour of the NDC chairman in the Ashanti region, and he will talk to us, but let's listen to Johnson Asiedun Ketia.
There is no president who came and used his own money to fund projects. They all used taxpayers' money. So if one comes and is unable to complete a project, a successive one must continue. We are going to make sure that all essential projects by the previous government that are stalled will be completed. For the Agenda 111 project, we are still making arrangement toward effort to complete it.
That was chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedun Ketia. Let's quickly touch base with my colleague, William Evans Inkum, who is following the thank you tour of the NDC chair. William, thank you for your time this afternoon. We know he has been assessing the performance of the regional campaign team with Adansi and Cliff. What more can you tell us?
Well, of course. So he's been touting their achievements in the 2024 elections. Mind you that before the elections, the NDC only had one seat, and that was New Edibiase. But for the first time, they were able to win the Akrofo constituency seat, which was created, I think, 2004. They've never had that seat since its creation. Then, of course, the almighty Adansi Asokwa constituency seat. And here we are talking about Kobnata Hammond, KP Hammond, and one of the popular, before he losing that particular seat, the longest serving member of parliament for that constituency, and of course on the ticket of the now petitioning New Patriotic Party. And to him, it was not a mere achievement, because for them to have won 2 more seats to New Edibiase, now having 3, it was something that was worth mentioning. So he thanks them for that. But then he has also charged them to win the Obuasi East constituency seat just to honor Samuel Abuaje, one of the officers who unfortunately lost his life in last year's
helicopter crash
in somewhere Obuasi. So it's a task that is given them grace.
Right, William, thank you so much for that update. William Evans Inkum bringing us details on the thank you tour by the NDC chair, Johnson Asiedun Ketia. And that's it for our package by way of the media news on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Thank you for joining us, but don't go away, because Bismarck Awisa is standing by to bring you the latest in the world of business. Good afternoon.
Follow us on social media, Twitter at 3FM927, Facebook at 3FM927, and also on 3news.com.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Ghana's inflation hits historic low of 3.2% in March. We'll hear from government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu.
This marks the 15th consecutive decline and the lowest level since the CPI rebasing in 2021, signaling strong and sustained stability.
Also ahead, financial analyst Joe Jackson warns policymakers are solving the wrong problems regarding cedi weakness.
It's the leakages that are a problem. When you are leaking $2.9 billion in repatriation, when you are leaking over $3 billion in service contracts, that is the problem.
Plus, fuel prices surged significantly following the National Petroleum Authority's announcement of new minimum price floor. I am Bismarck Ausa. Will bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Ghana's disinflation journey reached a significant milestone in March 2026, with the headline inflation rate falling to 3.2%, according to the latest Consumer Price Index data released by the Ghana Statistical Service. This figure marks the 15th consecutive month of declining inflation since January 2025, signaling a period of sustained macroeconomic stability that has defied earlier market volatility. Let's hear from government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu.
This marks the 15th consecutive decline and the lowest level since the CPI rebasing in 2021, signaling strong and sustained stability. Month-on-month price increase was 0.1% between February and March 2026, showing that price pressures are easing in real time. Food inflation continues to ease, falling to 2.3% from the 2.4% recorded in February, with food prices actually declining by 0.3% between February and March 2026, evidence that key staples are stabilizing and in some cases becoming cheaper. Non-food inflation remains slightly higher at 3.9%, though easing from 4%, with prices still rising modestly by 0.3% between February and March 2026. This is indicating persistent but controlled pressure outside food.
You just heard government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu. Now, Chief Executive Officer of Delex Finance, Joe Jackson, has challenged the long-held narrative that the Ghana cedi's chronic weakness is primarily the result of excessive imports or a lack of exports. Speaking at the evening with Joe Jackson, the Anansi Stories, an event organized by the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, CIMG, Joe Jackson argued that Ghana's persistent currency struggles stems from fundamental policy misalignments rather than merely the trade deficit. He contended that for years, policymakers have been solving the wrong problems by focusing on stopgap measures that fail to address the root causes of economic instability.
Maybe the rice is not the problem. The rice importation is not the problem. It's the leakages that are a problem. When you are leaking $2.9 billion in repatriation, when you are leaking over $3 billion in service contracts, that is the problem. If it was left to the trade surplus alone, we don't have a problem with imports. We don't really have to worry about what we are importing. The problem is that those who are controlling the economy, those who take charge are making us leak the money outside. We don't have a dollar problem. We have a retention of our export problem. The things we export is mainly gold. Gold is a huge part. Oil, the next. Cocoa is actually coming down. Now, in those two particular sectors, we are retaining less than 50%. And if things continue, growing those exports won't change our lives because we are leaking more than 50%, especially in the oil. Now, what is scary is that lithium is coming online and it's going to follow the same or worse. Bauxite will come online and it will be the same or worse. So we will see that, we are growing. We've got oil, but the cedi is still under pressure. We've got lithium. The cedi is still under pressure. We are growing. We are exporting bauxite, but nothing has changed.
Joe Jackson is a financial analyst and chief executive of Delex Finance. To one of our headline stories, fuel prices are set to rise sharply from today, April 1, 2026, but some oil marketing companies have already begun increasing pump prices ahead of the official adjustment today. According to the latest outlook by the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, petrol could rise by 8.06% to about 15 cedis 19 pesos per litre, while diesel is projected to increase by 9.76% to around 17 cedis 85 pesos per litre. Liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) is also expected to see a marginal increase, with prices likely hitting about 16 cedis 59 pesos. Even before the official pricing window takes effect, some major oil marketing companies have already begun adjusting their prices upward. Gual has increased petrol from 12 cedis 24 pesos to 13 cedis 30 pesos per litre, while diesel has gone up from 15 cedis 69 pesos to 17 cedis 10 pesos. Star Oil has also revised its prices, with petrol rising from 12 cedis 19 pesos to 13 cedis 49 pesos per litre, and diesel jumping from 14 cedis 25 pesos to 17 cedis 97 pesos. These changes took effect from 8 a.m. on March 31. This will mark the fifth projected increase in fuel prices since January 2026, and the second time this year that consumers are experiencing such a steep hike. With these early adjustments already underway, consumers should brace for further increases in the coming days as the new pricing window begins. Meanwhile, a wave of early price adjustments by major oil marketing companies (OMCs) has sparked a heated debate over the National Petroleum Authority's price floor policy, with critics arguing the regulator is facilitating a premature surge in the cost of living. While the official first pricing window started today, several market leaders began raising their rates as early as Monday, March 30. The hikes follow a circular issued by the NPA on March 30, which set new minimum price floors. Petrol has jumped to 13 cedis 30 pesos per litre, while diesel has seen a massive spike to 17 cedis 10 pesos. Let's listen to Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, Benjamin Insia.
NPA should not encourage this particular practice. Otherwise, these OMCs are taking advantage of the consumers. We've established a window which starts from 1st to 15th and then 16th to the last day of a month, depending on the particular month. So we should not encourage OMCs to just adapt and implement a window floor price when the window is yet to set in. When it happens that way, especially at the time that prices are escalating and surging on the international market, these OMCs are rather taking advantage of the consumers by procuring this product at a very affordable or lower rate and selling it to consumers at an expensive rate. It must not be encouraged. I think that NPA should look out for, or should look for these OMCs and then sanction them so that others will not also emulate and begin to take advantage of petroleum consumers in Ghana.
And that was Executive Director of the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, Benjamin Insia. And that brings us to the end of Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. For more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Thanks for your company.